Over the course of my life, I've always been told that connections to people are important, and if not for it, we would not survive as human beings. I never really understood this concept. I was fine with being alone, if anything I preferred it, until one icy cold week in July of 2019. I wasn't in the best state of mind at that time. I was having a rough time at school, home, and even within me. The previous month, the person I respected the most passed away by taking his own life. While I was of course devastated, the days after were what hurt the most. It really started to sink in that he was gone and that was it. I was even more bitter than I once was. I started to disregard my family and friends, putting on a facade to hide it all. That period was when I was binging anime to get my mind off of everything that was happening. And that was when I remembered a show I once watched when I was a kid, but completely forgot. It was Natsume Yuujinchou, and on that icy cold week, I watched all 6 seasons and the movie. And while it didn't completely change me, which let's be real, nothing can, it made me understand life more. It made me appreciate my closest friends and family much more. Natsume Yuujinchou, also known as Natsume's Book of Friends, is an episodic slice-of-life anime following a reserved 15-year-old Natsume. Natsume has been alone most of his early life due to being able to see and interact with yokai, which are creatures and ghosts from Japanese folklore. The people around him have been afraid of him because of this. We don't really get told much about him in the first episode. The show just throws us into a situation Natsume is a part of. He was being chased by yokai, which eventually leads him to a shrine where he rips through a binding rope by accident. This is how we meet Nyanko Sensei and learnt more of his grandmother and her past. He was told about the Book of Friends, which held yokai's names and is why yokai was chasing him. That and that he looked like his late grandmother. From here on, we go on a journey with Natsume as he returns yokai's names, learns more about his grandmother, learns more about life, and makes many friends along the way. At the start of the series, Natsume doesn't seem like all too deep of a character. We know that he tries his best to be kind and that he was reserved. But we didn't know why he was reserved until we learned more about his painful past and early life. And as we see more of his past, we understand him more and connect with him more. And as the series continues, he starts to grow as a person. He enjoys himself more around the friends he's made, both humans and yokai alike, and by the end of season 6, he was a character I fully respected. Since this is an episodic show, we get self-contained stories that conclude by the end of the episode. But we also sometimes get stories that get 2 episodes. I feel the episodic formula works in this show's favor. Each story is filled with important life lessons on different topics and conveys the importance of connections within each one. We get stories related to friends, love, loneliness, death, growing up, moving on, and so much more. This show is a treasure trove of insight on life. One of my favorite episodes in the series is Swallow at the Lake Bottom, the 6th episode of the first season. It has almost everything I love about the show all in one episode. In this episode, we get to see Natsume grow more than he ever has before, becoming more attached to yokai than trying to constantly ignore them. The yokai that was focused on in this episode was a swallow spirit named Tsubame that possessed Natsume. There is someone who she desperately wants to meet, and Natsume reluctantly agrees to help. There is an important line in the first half of the episode that Natsume says. It makes us understand him a little more. I don't really understand being desperate to see someone, but I'm happy for you. While this is pretty vague, it really makes sense as the series goes on and we see more of his past. Natsume grew up without a mother and only had a father for a brief time. He became an orphan at a young age and was passed around his various relatives. Since he could see yokai, he would look like he was talking and interacting to nothing. Everyone, including his relatives, ostracized him because of this, making him feel more and more alone. At one point, he started looking for his father desperately, screaming out for him, but to no avail. This is similar to Tsubame looking for the man who helped her, but Natsume gave up. He settled on never calling out to his father again because he knows there will be no one there to answer. Learning this later on makes the lines said in this episode so much more powerful than just a simple line. The mangaka did a wonderful job making Natsume's character consistent with the period of time each episode takes place. How reserved he is, how much he trusts yokai, and so on. And the studios responsible for the anime adaptation, Brian's Base for seasons 1 to 4 and Shuka for seasons 5 and 6, did a phenomenal job adapting and ordering each chapter. Moving on, we see Natsume and Tsubame get closer as the episode continues. We learn more about Tsubame and how, when she was still alive as a bird, she was saved by a human when she fell from her nest. But because of this, her nest was abandoned by her parents due to the human scent. With no food, her brothers and sisters died one by one until she was the only one left. She became a demon due to her sorrow, but the human who had saved her before started to leave food for her to eat day after day. She felt the warmth and kindness of the human and was finally able to rest peacefully. It was a simple yet refreshing little story that had an impact on me, making me start to understand the show. I began to understand Tsubame more just because of a small story, and when Natsume and Tsubame finally found the man, he was unable to see her, which pained Natsume. But there was a glimmer of hope. A festival for yokai was taking place, and the winner of a race receives a yukata, which allows them to take human form for a single night. When asked by Nyanko-sensei why he would go so far for lowly yokai, it clicked in Natsume, and he realized he could call her a friend. Natsume was beginning to understand himself more and what a friend really is. And after a great and beautifully animated action segment, Natsume wins the yukata. The next day, Natsume meets with the man, and he says that he met Tsubame. He shows a picture of them to Natsume, making him cry. While this ending is a little up to interpretation, I feel Natsume was finally able to have some peace in his heart from never finding his father, and was finally able to allow yokai into his heart once more. The story wasn't necessarily different from all the other ones, but the way it connected with me and Natsume emotionally was why I loved it so much. It's for sure one of the reasons why I find this show to be so special. And every episode after and every episode before has a unique way of showing us the importance of life and the importance of connections. The production helps with this drastically. The art, animation, and phenomenal soundtrack all add to the grace and beauty of the show. While it may sound silly, I was able to have some sort of peace after everything that went wrong and may go wrong with my life. I was taught to never take even the smallest connection for granted. I was taught that love's flower may never flourish, and that's okay. I was taught that friendships always have an end, but you can find new and more powerful ones. I was taught that another's death is a part of life, and that while it may be sad, while it may hurt, moving on is the best thing to do. Not to forget them, but to remember and grow from it. And as I rewatch this show now as the awful 2020 year comes to a close, I remember all these life lessons that this show has taught me. Natsume Yuujinchou is a truly special show and is one of the greatest anime I've ever had the pleasure to watch. He is hoping for a 7th season. And as always, take care.